We are coming to an end of the year, and this year has been a very interesting year. On the BNM podcast, we've had several different guests come on board. Some had inspirational stories, other had educational stories, other had very emotional stories. And at the end of the day, all my guests had one thing in common. And that one thing is simple. They were broken, but not shattered. Woof! What a year. We're going to take a recap and see what 2024 looked like. I hope you have a great time. Hope we had the right pick.
As someone who has worked in this sector for like 20 years, I've dealt with different issues from female genital mutilation to domestic violence to domestic servitude to human trafficking and to general gender-based violence. I have dealt with all kinds of the issues across different spectrum, and I've seen this play out in different ways. The general understanding is that men perpetrate this violence. But even as an anti-trafficking expert, I can tell you, for one, the statistics shows that 56% of the perpetrators of human trafficking are women.
What percentage?
56%.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't say that. That's what the statistics says.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to female genital mutilation, it isn't the men that are cutting the women. It is the women that are cutting the women.
Wow.
And they say it's for the man. So men come out and say, I don't want my woman cut. You know, because if you even go, when we look at the aspect of sexuality, and I mean, you're a man, you would tell me you would prefer a woman who understands her sexuality. And I hear younger men say, I like older women because they understand themselves, they know themselves, they're confident in their sexuality.
Correct.
And when there is something that takes that away from a woman, how does that pleasure a man? I'm not saying that there are men who actually promote FGM.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but not the way we think it is. You know, even when I had spoken to people within communities where this is practiced,
right?
You know, you would tell men will say, we don't want it, and the women will say, we have to do it. It's culture, it's tradition. We have to do it, and because it starts to represent something for women beyond men, it starts to change from what it was meant to do to something else completely. The vision of Raising Women Initiative, and we say we envision a world where women are truly free. Mm-hmm. Freedom is something that women don't even give themselves.
To the young lady who's out there, never been married before, is it important really that she should focus on getting married rather than focusing on her career, or should she focus on both at the same time? I'm just trying to get your opinion on this.
So that's a good question, and I hope I don't get canceled for saying this.
That's okay. Whatever. This is our show. It's called Broken Not Shattered.
In my opinion, marriage is not, to me, an accomplishment.
Wow. Say that again. Hey, easy. Hey. Say that again.
In my opinion, marriage to me is not an accomplishment. As a young child growing up, and as a Nigerian and the first daughter of the family, I feel like women, we are trained to be wives. We are raised, you have to learn how to clean, you have to learn how to cook, because your husband, is this how you're going to behave at your husband's house? So those things were placed in us at a very young age. So, and I think it played a role in also me wanting to be married at 23, because that's what I knew, that's what I thought is the way to go, right?
Right.
And our mothers did not tell us the truth. I stand on that till this day. I don't feel like our mothers really gave us the truth about
what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
You know, you will say my parents have been married 35 years. My mother has kept a marriage for 35 years, but we don't know the insides, the in and outs of that marriage. We don't know what she had to do to stay in the marriage, or the things that she had to cover up to have a marriage. And being married twice, now I know there are things you're gonna have to hold in. There are sacrifices that you have to make to make a marriage work. And I don't think that our mothers sat us down. I would say mine sat us down to say, hey, you know, I know that, you know, me and your dad have been together for 30 years, but these are the things that you see when you're in a marriage.
My thing is, if you see the red flags, they definitely need to be addressed. And if it's something that you're just like, I'm not going to deal with this, then I would just say walk away. We can't change people. I mean, people are who they are, especially as we get older. People are already set in their ways.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, no one can change a person but God, and that person has to have a willing heart to want to change. So if you see red flags, definitely pay attention to them. There's this saying where people say, people show you exactly who they are, like believe them. Don't make excuses for people because, he, like with my ex, he was such a supportive person. He was like my number one fan. And I had never had a man support me the way that he supported me in my dreams and my goals. And I feel like I put that on a pedestal. So anything else that he did, it's kind of like I looked over it because he was so supportive, of my dreams and my goals. And so I looked past all of that. But now when I'm looking back, I'm like, clearly God told me he was a liar from the beginning. The way the relationship he had with his father, with his mother, all, which is important to me. I had a great relationship with my parents. I grew up in a great household with an amazing father. I have amazing men in my family. So for me, that's a red flag. If I see you don't have a great relationship with your father, your mother, that's a total red flag where I probably would walk away because that's not something that can be fixed easily. That's like a lot of childhood trauma, a lot of stuff that have to be dealt with for that to be fixed. So it just really depends on what the red flag is, what you're willing to tolerate.
To not transfer it to our kids, we really need to be self-aware and lean into resources because parenting is so triggering. I mean, if you think you're floating along, maybe if you can even handle a partnered relationship just fine, you get into parenting and boom, like you will get your stuff activated. And I look at that as an invitation to heal and grow. Like there's something about parenting because a lot of our trauma is experienced in relationship and oftentimes from our own parents. And so we need to heal that in order to not transfer it. We need to navigate that healing and growing and skill building in order to not. So for example, I was a very raised in a pretty reactive household. Just everything was kind of a big deal, not a lot of self-regulation happening. And when I went into parenting, I got married at 20, had my first at 22, quite young. I was like, oh, I don't want that. I want to be a patient, kind, calm parent. Well, when your kid's throwing a fit in the middle of the grocery store and all eyes are on you,
you go back to what you know.
You're in your amygdala. You're in the part of your brain that's very reactive because I hadn't built the skills to regulate and do something differently. I can't just say, no, I don't want to show up like that. I don't want to transfer trauma to my kids. And then that's enough. I actually have to put action behind that desire. And so if I don't have the skills to regulate myself in that moment and then co-regulate with my child, I'm going to keep transferring it. I'm going to spank them. I'm going to yank them out of the grocery store and do all kinds of things, right?
Right.
Whatever it was that I was raised with until I build replacement skills. And so I worked really hard on that because it didn't feel good. I didn't like going to bed knowing I just lost it with my kid for the upteenth time at bedtime because they just wouldn't go to bed, right? It wasn't feeling good to parent that way. Oh. So I'm just a knowledge seeker. I'm like, all right, give me the books. That was back in, my oldest is 24. So the internet was just barely available to search things. So there wasn't even a lot of access like parents have now. So it was just the Wild West back then, but I figured it out.
People are mean. Let's just say that. The first thing I get is your child is in prison because of you as a mother. That's what a lot of mothers get all the time, is that you failed your child because your child should have been raised properly. I get that so much in the comments, and there's mothers in the group that send me messages saying that their neighbors blame them because Timmy went to prison. That's what society thinks, that it's all because of the mother. Like, why weren't you at home? But the mama got to put food on the table. You know what I'm saying? So she can't be in all places at once, especially if she's raising that child by herself. That struggle is real when you're if you have multiple children and you have to work overtime to put food on the table, or if your child wants to play, piano lessons, who pays for that? Especially if there's no father in the household. So that mother's going to work overtime to have that little girl play piano lessons. But if she's not at home, unfortunately, sometimes now you have all these apps and all these social media platforms, a child may drift away. But is that on the mama? Because she's trying to provide for the household. It's like mothers can't win for losing. Like, why wasn't you at home? But I got to be at work for overtime for the night shift.
That's good.
And it's just like people always point fingers. And I always say, when you point fingers, you got 3 fingers pointing back at you. You know what I'm saying? So we're so quick to judge a single mom, but we don't know her struggle, and we don't know her story. And we don't know how her mama raised her.
That's correct.
We're just always so quick to judge that individual because Timmy or Michael Michelle went to prison, but we don't know if Timmy had mental illness.
That's
and
correct.
The mama tried everything she possibly could, and she drained her savings account to get him mental health, but that still didn't work. I have so many mothers that are I have over 7,000 mothers that tell me their stories. And there's so many people who have drained their savings account to save their child, but they still ended up in prison. So who's to blame? So society needs to, I always say, y'all need to hold up a little bit. Don't blame the mom until you walk in them shoes, them 7.5, heels that we got to put on those 4-inch. Not sneakers. We put on heels for y'all.
Why does it appear that men have issues with expressing themselves?
That's a really good question, right? It's something I ask my husband, because my husband is very private, right? So sometimes I have to push him for him to speak and give me some information. But I think it's because men have this idea, or have been raised with the idea, that they need to be tough. That they can't be, soft, that they can't cry, that they, I mean, how many times have you maybe seen somewhere, or even heard yourself, if you cry, oh, stop crying like a girl, you cry like a girl, that kind of thing. And it's not fair, because men are going through some stuff too. They are really going through some deep-seated issues. They also become abused, right? They also get abused and don't say anything. They also feel unworthy and don't say anything. That's why suicide amongst men has risen, because they feel like they can't talk about it. If they're not bringing home the bacon, they don't feel like men. If they feel shattered inside, they don't want to talk about it. That's a big deal, Ike, right? Because that's happening to a lot of men. That's correct. I wish there were more safe spaces for men, to be honest.
Wow. A woman in her 30s, is she the same woman in her 50s?
No. Absolutely not.
What?
Absolutely not. Everything I've been saying to you, a woman in her 30s probably rolling her eyes right now. Okay. She's like, whatever. Right. A woman in her 50s has learned a lot of lessons. A woman in her 30s thinks that she knows it all. That she got this. She feels empowered. She's a boss babe, so she's going through all that. She's doing, I was the same woman. That's who you are in your 30s. In your 40s and 50s, you start to realize, what, maybe I don't have it all together, and that's good. I realize I don't know anything, because I'm still learning.
So I have a child living with sickle cell disease. And one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about it is that the disparities in the care of people living with sickle cell disease is just too much.
Yeah.
The health outcome of this population is so poor.
Yes.
And when I compare sickle cell disease with another genetic disorder called cystic fibrosis,
okay.
There are more people living with sickle cell disease than people living with cystic fibrosis. But there's more research, on cystic fibrosis than it is on sickle cell disease. However, that being said, though, we have seen a lot of improvement.
Yes, an advancement. Correct.
So I currently work in a research organization.
Okay.
I am a clinical trial coordinator. I work with a big research organization. I am a believer in research. I'm a believer in science, and I'm a believer in advancement in our healthcare system. So there's been a lot of advancement in the care, in the research, and in the treatment and care of sickle cell disease.
How have you been able to manage and overcome both the physical and the emotional toil of being a person living with sickle cell anemia?
First of all, I had to come to a point where I'm just like, number one, I did not give myself sickle cell. It wasn't a choice. If people could choose their genotypes, I don't think anybody would choose sickle cell. Number two, it's not a communicable disease. You cannot catch it by being close to me or talking to me or being friends with me or living with me. So it's not a death sentence, even though people seem to think it is, and basically I did nothing wrong by being born with sickle cell. So I had to come to that place of mind that, I deserve to be here just as much as everybody else, so I had to come to that place of, acceptance. That's what I'll call it, accepting myself for who I am, what I have, and the life that I have been given, basically. And coming to accept the fact that I deserve to be here just as much as everybody else. I deserve to walk on this earth as much as everybody else. So I'm not going to shy away or live in the shadows or anything, and yes, acceptance and being vocal comes with its own cons, but I think the pros outweigh the cons, if I'm being honest. So I just had to accept myself for who I am.
I know it has been fun so far on the rooftop of Go Hotel. It has been great watching the first episode of our sessions. Let's take a break and then come back.
And do you face that challenge when people say, oh, he's a DJ, but he has lost his sight? They don't want to hire you, or they pay you less?
It's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. Whenever, because I always tell them that, yes, I'm a DJ, but I'm blind. Take it or leave it. You have to accept it. So some of them, they'll be like, oh, we don't have a lot of money. We only just want to make sure you are being exposed to the world there. And I'm like, who does that? I have rent I'm paying for. I have myself to feed. I have other people to feed. Then, why will you tell me that you're going to give me change? No, I'm not going to do that.
Exactly, brother.
So I am challenged with muscular dystrophy. Okay, muscular dystrophy is a health condition whereby your muscles, the person who is affected, has a lack in dystrophin in their muscles. It's said to be genetic or hereditary, as the case may be, but in some cases or in rare cases, it could be spontaneous, for which I think mine is spontaneous because there's no trace of that in my family.
Okay.
So I started noticing the symptoms when I was 12. Then I was in a boarding school. So I noticed that I began to find it slightly difficult to get up from a squatting position. Boarding school, we are being punished by our seniors. So
Right.
They will often tell us to ride Okada or squat, most of all this kind of difficult exercises or difficult punishment that involves the pelvic muscles. So that was where I noticed that I started feeling a little bit, of difficulty doing it. But I just thought I was just being lazy or not as strong as my peers.
Right.
I didn't know it was a physical disability. So gradually it progressed to getting up from the seats. I noticed that I usually don't get up like I used to. I started finding it difficult to get up. I don't get up fast, but you wouldn't even notice that there is a difference. But myself, I could tell that I'm just not able to get up the way I used to get up. So gradually it progressed to bending. When I bend down, I'm not able to get up without holding my knees. One of my knees, I'll use it to lift myself up. Just like that, it continued, and the progression was not fast. Maybe interval of 2-3 years.
Wow.
The pathological report came back positive that it was colorectal cancer at stage 3.
What is colorectal cancer?
I had colon. Colon cancer is the large intestine, right, in the body, so which connects to the rectum. So while it's called colorectal, is between the colon and the rectum of a human body.
Correct.
So at that stage, it is going towards the rectum. So I had that anastomosis and colon dissection. So part of the colon was removed and worked upon to join them together. My cancer journey opened my eyes to the numerous challenges in health sector in Nigeria. About 125,000 cases annually, with about 80% deaths. There is no single place where you can start up this cancer journey and finish there. So you have to go from one facility to another. So those are the challenges that we face here. I didn't choose cancer. Cancer rather chose me, but there must be a purpose. For me, the cancer diagnosis and treatment changed the dimension of my life. So we decided to come together. Cancer is just a death sentence. Hence, you are being diagnosed, you're dead. We created the nest of hope. Generally, body is made up of different cells.
Correct.
That are normal. But at a point, they try to misbehave or grow abnormally, because ordinarily cells are supposed to die off, and regenerate. But at a point, the body builds it in such a way that it doesn't die off. Instead of dying, it multiplies. That's mutation.
Yes.
So those mutations, when they mutate, they tend to also move away from where they were, the original places where they are supposed to be. And possibly something that is not supposed to be in the system, being in the system, will begin to create a problem. So that's what cancer is. And there are so many cancers.
Yes.
I've been here post-cancer treatment for 4 years.
Wow.
So I completed my treatment 4 years ago. So I've been cancer-free for 4 years now.
Wow. All glory to God.
So I believe genes load the gun, and it's your lifestyle that pulls the trigger.
Whoa. Hey. Take it easy. Say that again. You believe that what?
Genes load the gun, and your lifestyle pulls the trigger. For example, in my family, sadly, we have heart disease in my family. So, my dad, my grandparents, a lot of them, they pass away with heart attacks, or they've had heart attacks in their life. But if I, but that doesn't give me the destiny that I'm definitely going to have a heart attack. If I don't eat fast food, if I exercise, if I eat, clean, good food, obviously, no alcohol, no cigarettes, sleep on time, manage my stress levels, meditate. I don't have to have, just because heart disease is in my genes, it's not my destiny. It's a lifestyle that pulls the trigger. But maybe if I had, a little bit of fast food, started smoking, I'd be more likely to develop heart disease.
Yes.
Because I'm more prone to it. So it's your genes that load the gun, but it's your lifestyle that pulls the trigger.
Okay, yeah. Now I was married at the time, but the thing was, before getting married, I already told my wife I was going to climb to the zenith of my career in engineering, and she was excited and happy. And then you get married to a man where the salaries were coming constantly and regularly every month. And then all of a sudden, he starts telling you, I want to resign and I want to go and start blessing people's lives. Correct. It was crazy for her at the point. I could see her face. She wasn't happy. But guess what? In that situation, instead of you to lash at your wife and say, can't you see this about my life? This about what gives me joy? No. I mean, you have put this woman into a situation where she was at peace. She was financially okay. I mean, and now you are leaving a job to face a path where you don't even know where the next money is going to come from. So what I did was to show her that it was going to work, to show her results. And on one of those occasions, I was invited to speak at an event. I got to the event, and after speaking, I was given 50,000 naira. I mean, now it's equivalent to $50, so to say. I got home, divided the money into two, and I practically stoned my wife with that money. And I said, take this money. This is what is coming from what I am doing now. You know, as she got it, as she counted it, guess what she said? Come on, this in the walk. Oh, that was what she said. She spoke it in our language, in Igbo language. She said, this thing is working. And that was all the push I needed. She had already accepted the path. I mean, today she enjoys it. You know, some days I don't go to work and I'm with her in the house. I mean, unlike before when I was. And so she is, yeah.
What's driving me is the fact that I come from a continent that is heavily exploited and talked down and looked down with a narrative that is not true. Okay. You see, why I went into media is typically to use my platform and my voice to tell a different story. Right. The new story, the true story about Africa. Chinua Achebe said, remember, Chinua Achebe said, if the hunter does not tell their story, the lion will tell it. And they will tell it how it will glorify them.
Correct. Wow.
Now, Allen Ginsberg said, whoever controls the people and the image control the culture. In life, perception is everything.
Everything.
So now, who creates the perception? Whoever creates the perception that is everything creates it most definitely to suit the creator, him.
Right.
When we were kids, even tonight, I think they still tell that story. They said that Mungo Park, a certain Mungo Park, discovered the River Niger.
Correct.
My question now is Mungo Park older than River Niger? When Mungo Park came from wherever he came from into Nigeria and saw River Niger to discover it, what happened to the people that lived around there? Niger. That's right. What it means is that whoever that first document wins.
Wow. What kind of tips can you give to a woman who wants to go into business? Just top tips in your mind.
You know, don't go down this male concept of raising money. A business is one thing and one thing only. I have this thing. Will you give me money for it? That is a business. Now, if one person will give me money for this, will the next person give me money, the next person, the next person, the next person? Running a business is making money. Just go do that. Find something somebody wants, sell it to them. Sell it to them again, sell it to the next person, get better at doing that, and then sell it to more people and make more money by keeping the costs low. Finished. There's no other magic beam to it. It's very simple.
My experience, my reality was not matching the words that came out from my mouth. When you're telling someone God is good and you have to struggle before you can eat, you have to struggle before you can afford the least medical bill, you have to struggle to get every basic thing of life. It was not corresponding at all. But I kept holding on to the fact that God does not owe. God does not owe. There is a particular scripture that makes so much sense to me, and that scripture said, would a child ask his father for stone and he would give him bread? Would he ask him for fish and he would give him serpents? Exactly. That was what the scripture said. The Bible now said that if men in all their humanity cannot do this wickedness to their own child, not to talk of a father,
Wow. I hope I haven't lost that.
sent
Oh my
his
God.
only son for us. So it kept me going. At every point, I always went back to God. At every point on this journey, I always went back to God. It was tough. But one day, just like a miracle, one of the days I was selling somewhere in front of ShopRite at Rumomasi. This happened on 17th November 2022. I'm a writer on Facebook, and whenever I put up a write-up, I take a picture with my truck and I post, because I didn't want to be among those who would try to impress people. You are living a fake life on social media, and in reality, you don't match what you profess online. So I just wanted people to know that it is possible to still call on God and be struggling. It is still very possible. It's possible for Jesus to be in the same boat with you and the storm would arise. It's just for you to recognize him. It's just for you to seek for his attention. So I just kept doing that. I was bent on letting even young ministers know that it's possible not to compromise the gospel in your mouth as long as you have something doing. When the honorarium or your next meal is not dependent on the honorarium that comes from your host and all that. So that fateful day, I went to sell, and for some reasons, my friend called me and she said, Favor, Minister Judy K just shared your post. I was like, Minister Judy K, the Nigerian gospel artist? She said, yes. I said, how? She said, just come online. I didn't even have data that day. I had to go recharge my phone. I came online. I was just seeing so many notifications on Facebook.
I was that kid that was my mom's prayer point growing up. you know that
I can relate. I can relate.
Mom had to do a lot of fasting and prayers, like, God, please, if this boy continues like this, so I was that kid that would play the whole day. If you want something if you need me to run an errand for you by 6 p.m., send me by 1. Because I'll stop to play football on the road. I'll do different stuff on the road, stop over at a friend's place to see a movie, and everything we watch, we replicate. And at that time, when we watch all the Jackie Chan movies, you better not dare try me, because you see that flying kick Jackie Chan does. I needed somewhere to replicate it, to see if I could jump that high and kick that high. It was just by God's will I didn't jump out the window watching Superman and all that, because I was very visual. Like, everything I saw, I wanted to do, and I was that child that would watch cartoons and movies all day, every day, play rough. None of my school uniforms, had holes, holes, and I had holes at the back. Because you can't sit down one place, you constantly rubbing it over the chair or my knee, because they would punish me in school and say, kneel down there, and then you pull your shorts down. And after a while, the material becomes very soft. I don't think you can relate. If you're not stubborn, you're not going to relate to.
I can relate.
So at some point, my mom just knew that, this guy. And then when she wants to discipline me the African mom style, maybe you want to spank me, and then she's spanking me, I'm doing like, you don't know you're giving me more power. So she just knew that spanking was not for this guy, and then she decided to, apply a different strategy for me. At some point, my siblings thought that she loved me more than them, because she just knew that beating, spanking won't work for this child. So I'll do stuff that's very crazy that they won't even try, and then she'll sit me down and open the Bible and start explaining, and this is why you shouldn't do this. But the good thing was I used to listen. So if you speak to me, I'll listen and I'll never do that again. And somehow I see it in my own kids now. Force doesn't work. So I was that child. And growing up,
from the tree, they say, right?
Yeah, so now I'm doing the, if you're familiar with my YouTube page, the Tegwolo series, everything that the Tegwolo, the stubborn kid, does is my story. 90% of what you see Tegwolo do on YouTube is that things that I have done. I've literally, my nanny back then, my auntie, who was our nanny at the time, there was a time that she still tells me till now. She still tells my kids. She tells my wife, "This is your husband showed me pepper, forced me. She actually forced me to take my siesta, lock me in the house so that I can sleep, And then one day I was like, "Why are you forcing me?" And I just got her bag, pulled out all her undies, and put it in the house, not outside, though. I wanted to strike a match, like light them on fire. And she kept on begging me, please.
Harassing you, and you to your terror. Let's get a song or two from you, please.
It's so good to be loving somebody, and that somebody loves you back. Yeah, to be loved and be loved in return is the only thing that my heart desires. Woo!
All right. I like that. Talk about a 50-50 love.
50-50 love. Listen.
As we draw this year to an end, it is time for us to move on to 2025. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for all your time. Thank you for tuning in Sunday after Sunday, week after week for the last 12 months. Broken, not shattered. We are hoping that 2025 will be a more exciting year. The right guest, the right place, the right venue, and you, the right audience, will always be there to support. And so on behalf of my team, I want to wish you a great time this last episode, and also a wonderful year as we move into 2025. It's our famous 3 words: love, peace, and more grace. Take care. Cheers. Love you. Bye.